We've all made an excuse, but there's a huge difference between saying, "I was stuck in traffic," and blaming a family of squirrels for hijacking your car keys. We are here to celebrate the second category. Here are 101 of the most brilliantly unhinged excuses ever recorded. 1. A college kid caught with notes scrawled on his thighs during a history final claimed it wasn't cheating, but a temporary tattoo tribute to our founding fathers. You gotta wonder what was on the other leg. The full text of the Louisiana Purchase, maybe? 2. During a high-stakes online chess match, a player who suddenly started playing like a supercomputer claimed his cat walked across the keyboard, accidentally inputting a series of flawless, world champion-level moves. Right. And I suppose the cat also critiques his opening theory. 3. A woman, busted by her husband for texting another dude, insisted she was simply practicing her typing speed for a new remote job. An interesting training method. I guess sexting some guy named Kyle is the 21st century version of Mavis Beacon teaches typing. 4. A high schooler in Texas was busted with a cheat sheet taped inside his water bottle label. His excuse? He was meticulously checking the chemical additives to ensure compliance with his new keto diet. Sir, those are history dates, not ingredients. There is no FDA for that. 5. A guy's girlfriend found his active dating profile, and he swore he was only on there to act as a filter for her single friends, making sure they didn't match with any creeps. An interesting strategy. How do you vet the creeps? By taking them out for drinks yourself? 6. A student was caught blatantly staring at his friend's test paper. His defense? He was peer-reviewing his friend's answers in real time to prevent him from failing. A noble cause, I guess. He just wanted to make sure his buddy copied down the exact same wrong answers as him. 7. A husband came home with bright red lipstick on his collar. His story? He had to give emergency CPR to a birthday clown whose unicycle got a flat tire on the freeway. The sheer, multi-layered stupidity of that image is almost a work of art. 8. In an online gaming tournament, a player caught using an aimbot program argued he wasn't cheating. He was conducting a sociological experiment on community reactions to perceived superhuman ability. That's like testing gravity by jumping off the roof to see if it still works. 9. When a politician was caught lifting an entire section of his speech from the movie Braveheart, his office said he wasn't plagiarizing. He was paying powerful homage to cinematic art that reflects our nation's struggle. Next thing you know, he'll be quoting Finding Nemo during foreign policy debates. 10. A teenager caught with answers written on the soles of his shoes swore he did it to absorb the information through his feet via osmosis. With that logic, I'm surprised he hasn't absorbed all the gum, dirt, and dog crap he's walked through directly into his brain. Oh, wait. Maybe he has. 11. Imagine copy-pasting your coworker's entire project, word for word, and when you get caught, you look your boss dead in the eye and say you were beta testing the document for brand synergy. Some people don't just steal thunder, they try to copyright it. 12. Finding a single mysterious earring in your husband's car is a classic recipe for disaster. His explanation? It must have materialized out of the radio speakers when a new pop song came on. So what happens when he listens to death metal? Do goat skulls just appear? 13. A student once submitted an entire history paper copied from Wikipedia, claiming he was sourcing his info from the collective global hive mind. The professor, in turn, sourced his grade directly from the collective global standards for getting an F. 14. What's the weirdest excuse for failing a drug test? How about blaming your dog? A pro cyclist insisted he accidentally took his beagle's high-performance allergy medication. It really makes you wonder what kind of Tour de France that beagle is training for. 15. We've all broken a diet, but the excuse separates the amateurs from the artists. A woman caught mid-cheesecake claims she was simply rescuing it from its impending expiration date. A true food philanthropist, that one. 16. The carpool lane is sacred ground. So when a guy driving solo got pulled over, he had to think fast. He pointed to the urn on his passenger seat and argued his late grandmother's ashes should count as a person. Apparently, the cop was too weirded out to argue and just wrote a ticket for a broken taillight. 17. Some excuses are just lazy. Others are galaxy-brained. A gamer, accused of using a lag switch, blamed his pet hamster General Patton, claiming his furious running on the wheel generated a localized electromagnetic field that disrupted the Wi-Fi. Of course. 18. Your girlfriend finds your browser history. It's bad. What do you say? One guy swore he was training a custom AI algorithm to recognize and block inappropriate content for the good of mankind. He's not a pervert. He's a public servant. 19. There's confident, and then there's this. A student caught on his phone during a calculus final claimed he was using a light meter app to ensure optimal ambient lighting for academic focus. Was the lighting optimal for watching the professor call security? 20. An accountant tried to expense a $700 dinner for one. His justification to the company? He was negotiating a corporate merger with a ghost haunting the building. You have to wonder if the ghost ordered the spectral lobster. 21. You want to see true audacity? A woman cut a 2-hour line at the DMV by announcing, "I'm not cutting, I'm time-sharing this specific geographical coordinate." It's a bold move to use theoretical physics to be a jerk. 22. His phone's GPS put him at a bar. He told his wife he was at the gym. When confronted, he claimed his CrossFit class was practicing clean and jerks with full beer kegs. Sure they were, buddy. 12 ounces at a time. 23. When the IRS audited a man for claiming his golden retriever as a business partner, he argued the dog provided critical morale-boosting emotional support. The agent's only question was whether the dog had a social security number. The guy said he was working on it. 24. I'm not tracing, I'm exploring the philosophical duality of artistic reproduction. That was the actual excuse an art student gave when caught tracing a photograph. The grade he received was, presumably, also a philosophical exploration of the number 0. 25. Her boyfriend had a secret second phone. When she found it, he claimed he was just holding it for a neighborhood squirrel who was being blackmailed by a gang of pigeons. At what point do you stop being angry and just start being concerned for their sanity? 26. Showing up 3 hours late for work usually requires a good excuse. One man told his boss he was delayed by a flock of birds flying in a mathematically perfect Fibonacci sequence, and he felt a profound civic duty to stop and document this miracle of nature. He's a data entry clerk, by the way. 27. A classic family drama. Someone broke an expensive vase. When confronted, the teenage son claimed it spontaneously shattered due to a localized sonic boom caused by a low-flying bat. He said it with a straight face. How do you even begin to argue with that level of advanced physics nonsense? 28. Caught juggling 2 dates at the same restaurant. A guy claimed he was beta testing parallel relationships for emotional resilience. He said both reservations were part of a randomized trial. Funny, the control group seemed to be the 2 furious women comparing notes in the lobby. 29. At a local chili cook-off, a contestant was caught adding a can of store-bought chili to his pot. His defense? He was merely conducting a double-blind study on the placebo effect of authenticity in modern culinary arts. He didn't get the prize money, but he might get a research grant. 30. Pulled over for erratic driving, a man who blew a .15 on the breathalyzer tried to convince the officer he had auto-brewery syndrome, a rare condition where his stomach ferments food into alcohol. He claimed the sandwich he ate for lunch was particularly yeasty. The breathalyzer, however, was not a biology major and disagreed. 31. People lie on their resumes all the time, but this one is special. An applicant who listed fluent in Klingon on his resume told the interviewer it was a strategic move to future-proof his skill set for anticipated interstellar trade agreements. Because when the aliens land, you'll want a guy who can negotiate in their native tongue. 32. A dad at the school spelling bee wore a tiny Bluetooth earbud and fed answers from the hallway. When busted, he said he was leveling the playing field against tiger parents with better Wi-Fi. The judge suggested leveling the field by stepping outside. 33. An author, months past his deadline, sent his editor a frantic email claiming he couldn't finish the book because his muse had been kidnapped by a rival faction of abstract poets who were demanding a ransom of unwritten metaphors. That's one way to describe writer's block. 34. A lab partner was caught swapping labeled beakers to fake perfect results. His excuse: "I wasn't cheating. I was simulating reproducibility under field conditions." Field conditions apparently include lying to your TA with a straight face. 35. A politician was secretly filmed accepting a briefcase full of cash. When the tape leaked, his office released a statement insisting it wasn't a bribe, but an unsolicited kinetic-based campaign contribution. That's a 5-syllable way of saying cash, and I'm sure we'll all be hearing it a lot more. 36. A woman discovered her new boyfriend had a tattoo of another woman's name on his back. He swore it was a misunderstanding. It was his beloved grandmother's maiden name, spelled in a rare, nearly forgotten dialect of ancient Gaelic. It's a bold strategy to bet your entire relationship on her not having Google. 37. In every group project, there's one person who does nothing. When called out, one student claimed his role wasn't to write or research, but to act as the ideological and spiritual anchor of the team, providing metaphysical oversight. An F has never been more spiritually aligned. 38. A man had to explain a $2,000 charge on his credit card from a place called the Velvet Kitten. He told his furious wife he was mentoring an underprivileged youth who had expressed a serious interest in rhythmic dance and small business management. The charity work some people do is just astounding. 39. A high school student submitted a doctor's note that was obviously fake. When the principal questioned him, the student insisted his doctor was a holistic practitioner who renders his medical opinions exclusively through the medium of interpretive watercolor painting. How do you even begin to forge that? 40. A woman on a strict health kick was caught with a family-sized bag of chili cheese Fritos. Her excuse to her husband was that she was proactively consuming his favorite junk food to save him from his own future heart disease. She's not a cheater. She's a preventative healthcare provider. A hero. 41. A guy calls in sick with a terrible fever, then shows up the next day with a perfect glowing tan. When his manager points it out, he claims it's not a tan, but a severe chemical burn from his new high-lumen, full-spectrum desk lamp. Right. The new solar flare model from Staples. 42. Picture this. A manager finds an employee sound asleep at his desk, drool and everything. The employee jolts awake and, without missing a beat, insists he wasn't napping. He was on an unauthorized corporate mindfulness sabbatical to recenter his productivity chakras. His termination letter probably cited a synergy misalignment. 43. A husband secretly buys an $8,000 home theater system. When his wife discovers the charge, he calmly explains it's not a purchase but a strategic investment in tangible, non-liquid assets as a hedge against market volatility. I'm sure his wife's portfolio felt very hedged when she saw that credit card bill. 44. A self-proclaimed militant vegan is caught by his friends absolutely destroying a double bacon cheeseburger. His defense? It was a rescue burger. He explained the restaurant was about to throw it out, and he couldn't stand to see it go to waste. A true humanitarian, saving the world one act of blatant hypocrisy at a time. 45. A parent-teacher conference is called because a third grader's science fair project on volcanoes is suspiciously good. Like PhD-level good. The father insists he didn't do it for his son, but merely acted as a project manager to facilitate the child's pre-existing creative vision. The kid's vision, apparently, included a detailed analysis of pyroclastic flows. 46. A serial dater got caught two-timing when both partners showed up to his surprise party. He claimed he was in a state of quantum monogamy, where commitment exists in multiple probabilities. Observation collapsed the wave. So did both drinks on his shirt. 47. A guy parks his giant pickup truck in a handicapped spot. When a security guard confronts him, he argues that while he may not be physically handicapped, he is severely emotionally handicapped after watching a particularly sad Pixar movie the night before. I guess the $200 ticket was for his emotional distress. 48. During a heated game of Monopoly, a player was caught stealing from the bank. He argued that since the game involves buying railroads and utilities, it falls under international maritime law, and therefore the banker's jurisdiction doesn't apply to him. He was soon subject to the laws of being thrown out of the house. 49. An IT manager, checking network traffic, found one employee streaming Netflix in 4K all day. The employee's excuse was that he was proactively stress testing the structural integrity of the company's firewall against high-bandwidth data incursions. The firewall, it turns out, was far less stressed than his manager. 50. A man came home at 4 a.m. shirt torn with a scratch on his face. His wife demanded an explanation. His entire unabridged excuse was 3 words: fought a bear. No follow-up, no details. Just bear. The sheer primitive audacity of that is almost more impressive than an elaborate lie. 51. A woman was called out for blatantly photoshopping herself into exotic vacation spots on Instagram. She insisted it wasn't a lie, but a digital vision board to manifest future travel opportunities through the law of attraction. She's not a liar, she's just an influencer of her own destiny. 52. A city official was caught using public funds to throw himself a lavish birthday party. His office's official statement claimed it wasn't a party, but a citywide multi-agency stress simulation exercise for emergency preparedness. The simulated emergency, apparently, was a critical shortage of shrimp cocktails and champagne. 53. A casino regular was flagged for card counting. He argued he wasn't cheating, just performing applied arithmetic therapy to manage stress. Security agreed to manage his stress by escorting him to the parking lot. 54. A teenager, caught spray painting a bridge, told the arresting officer he wasn't vandalizing. It was unsolicited public performance art, challenging the bourgeois constructs of private versus public property. The judge, in turn, challenged his construct of freedom with 80 hours of community service. 55. A guy's girlfriend noticed he was liking a suspicious number of thirst trap photos on Instagram. He swore it wasn't what it looked like. He was simply helping the algorithm calibrate his phone's OLED screen for optimal color saturation and black levels. How many pictures of fitness models does it take to get the settings just right? Asking for a friend. 56. An office worker was caught red-handed, eating a co-worker's very clearly labeled sandwich from the break room fridge. His defense was that he wasn't eating it. He was conducting an unsolicited third-party toxicology screening to ensure its edibility. He later reported that the sandwich was, in fact, perfectly safe to eat. All of it. 57. A freshman got caught with AirPods under a hoodie during a midterm. He said he was crowdsourcing confidence, not answers. The professor said he could crowdsource a retake in summer school. 58. A runner in a local marathon finished an hour ahead of everyone else, but his GPS tracker showed he cut off a 5-mile section of the course. When confronted, he argued he wasn't cheating, but disrupting the linear paradigm of traditional race theory by implementing a more efficient, multi-vector navigational strategy. He's not a cheater, he's a logistics innovator. 59. A raffle winner swapped his losing ticket for a friend's winning stub during the chaos. When seen on camera, he claimed it was a clerical correction by fate. Fate replied with a lifetime ban. 60. During a code review, a dev pasted an entire library solution from a forum. Caught instantly, he said he was benchmarking community throughput. Cool. The only benchmark now is how fast HR can process exits. 61. In a company fitness challenge, a manager logged 20,000 stairs at 2 a.m. on a Sunday. Confronted, he said he was simulating vertical effort with a drill on the pedometer. Turns out the only thing climbing was his termination risk. 62. At a bar, a woman claiming to be 29 was asked for her ID, which clearly showed she was 42. Unfazed, she told the bouncer, "Oh, that's just my earth age. My spiritual and emotional age is much younger." The bouncer, apparently, was not a spiritual man and denied her entry. 63. A guy showed up to work in a neck brace, getting sympathy from everyone. Then he was spotted playing a vigorous game of tennis that afternoon. His excuse when confronted? He was beta testing a new high-intensity cervical resistance trainer for a Swedish sports science startup. It's not an injury, it's R&D. 64. A couple came home to find their brand new sofa ripped to shreds, with their dog sitting proudly in the middle of the carnage. The husband swore the dog was innocent. It had to have been a highly localized poltergeist with a very specific grudge against synthetic microfiber. You can't argue with that kind of paranormal specificity. 65. At movie trivia night, a guy kept nailing answers with his hands under the table. The host found a hidden phone, streaming clues. He claimed it was closed captioning for the culturally curious. The only subtitle now is disqualified. 66. During an audit, an executive was asked to justify a $5,000 expense report for a clairvoyant consultant. He argued with a straight face that the psychic provided mission-critical, precognitive market analysis and forecasted quarterly earnings based on Saturn's transit through Capricorn. 67. Pulled over for doing 95 in a 55 zone, a woman told the state trooper she wasn't speeding. She was attempting to achieve a localized time dilation effect, explaining that if she could just briefly approach the speed of light, she could get an extra 15 minutes of work done before her next meeting. 68. A man told his wife his old college buddy Dave was coming to stay for the weekend. His wife was surprised when Dave turned out to be a woman. His excuse? In the obscure dialect of her tiny ancestral mountain village, Dave is a traditionally female name. A village with a population of 1, apparently. 69. A professor noticed a student constantly looking down at his new, expensive smartwatch during an exam. When he took it away, the student protested that it wasn't a smartwatch. It was a medically mandated biometric feedback device monitoring his heart rate to prevent a catastrophic test-induced anxiety spike. 70. His girlfriend found a burner phone taped under the desk. He swore it wasn't cheating, just two-factor authentication for romance. Interesting factor, the second is moving out. 71. An employee was caught stuffing his backpack with an absurd amount of office supplies. When confronted, he claimed he wasn't stealing, but liberating these disenfranchised resources for a humanitarian mission to equip an underprivileged startup. The startup was his home office. The mission was printing his fantasy football stats. 72. A guy was caught swiping on dating apps mid-relationship. He said he was stress testing the market to appreciate what we have. She chose to appreciate peace and quiet by deleting him. 73. A sommelier exam candidate had a tiny crib sheet behind the spit bucket. Busted, he said he was pairing notes with notes. The board paired his result with a permanent fail. 74. An art student traced a viral illustration on an iPad and uploaded it as original. When flagged, he said, "It's collaborative authorship with the internet." The internet collaborated by roasting him in the comments. 75. A manager walked in to find his entire team watching a football game instead of working. The team leader, without missing a beat, claimed they were conducting a real-time ethnographic study of peak human performance under extreme pressure to develop a new motivational white paper. The white paper was probably titled, "How to Get Fired." 76. A neighbor complained about loud, rhythmic banging coming from the apartment next door all night. The tenant swore he wasn't just making noise. He was practicing the ancient and noble art of artisanal furniture exorcism. The negative spirits in his IKEA bookshelf, he claimed, were particularly stubborn. 77. Pulled over for blasting through a red light, a driver told the officer, "I am selectively colorblind, but only to government-mandated color schemes. In my personal chromatic reality, that light was a vibrant and inviting shade of proceed." The ticket was presumably a vibrant shade of expensive. 78. A marathoner hit a folding scooter behind a hedge and rejoined near the finish. Caught on a spectator's GoPro, he said he was pioneering hybrid endurance. The race pioneered a new rule named after him. 79. One friend tried to bail on helping another friend move by texting, "Sorry, can't make it. My chiropractor says my aura is critically misaligned, and lifting anything over 10 pounds could trigger a full-blown spiritual prolapse. You can't even get mad at an excuse that majestic. 80. A golfer filed down a ball to reduce drag, then called it DIY aerodynamics. When the head pro spotted the sandpaper in his bag, he claimed it was for grip health. His membership health declined immediately. 81. An employee who took a 2.5-hour lunch break was questioned by his boss. He insisted it wasn't a break, but a dynamic, mobile, off-site strategic planning session with a highly promising potential client he engaged with near the Sparrow at the food court. The promise of that client was probably as real as a Sparrow's authentic Italian cuisine. 82. A husband accidentally washed and shrunk his wife's favorite cashmere sweater. Instead of apologizing, he presented it to her and said, "I didn't shrink your sweater. I have artisanally tailored it into a European-style form-fitting mid-layer. It's not laundry incompetence, it's bespoke fashion." 83. In an online history forum, a user was caught fabricating a series of elaborate war stories. When presented with evidence he was lying, he claimed he wasn't speaking from personal experience, but was channeling the latent ancestral memories of his great-uncle who flew in World War II. It's not lying, it's a seance. 84. A man's dog kept digging massive holes in the neighbor's prized rose garden. When the neighbor furiously complained, the owner calmly explained, "He's not just digging. He's a canine archaeologist and he believes your garden is sitting on a significant deposit of pre-Columbian pottery." 85. A woman asked her boyfriend why there was a live goat in their one-bedroom apartment. His perfectly serious response was that the goat was his federally certified emotional support animal, specializing in the therapeutic processing of existential dread via aggressive, targeted headbutting. How can you argue with federal certification? 86. A chess club prodigy had a posture corrector buzzing mid-match. Judges asked to inspect it. He said it delivered mindfulness prompts. Odd how mindfulness coincided with engine moves. He meditated on a forfeit. 87. After finding a receipt for a romantic dinner for two, a woman confronted her husband. He calmly explained it wasn't him. It was his evil twin, Bartholomew, who periodically escapes from a secret underground facility to ruin his life. You have to wonder if Bartholomew at least paid for his half. 88. An employee completely missed a major project deadline. His excuse to his furious manager? His keyboard had developed a rudimentary form of consciousness and was refusing to type as a protest against perceived capitalist oppression. His manager suggested the keyboard might enjoy protesting from the unemployment line. 89. At a party, a guest was caught blatantly double-dipping a chip into the communal guacamole. When someone called him out, he announced it wasn't a double dip. It was a reverse baptism for the chip, cleansing it of its processed corporate sins. The host was not converted. 90. In a poker room, a player's sunglasses reflected a heads-up display from a hidden phone. He said it was augmented reality for personal growth. The house augmented reality by showing him the door. 91. A restaurant owner was caught writing his own 5-star reviews online. He claimed they weren't fake. They were leaked pre-written reviews from a much more successful alternate timeline. And he was simply aligning his current reality with that predetermined outcome. 92. A guy came home with a truly disastrous haircut. Like a lawnmower attacked a scarecrow bad. When his girlfriend stared in horror, he confidently told her, "It's not a bad haircut. It's a disruptive aerodynamic design meant to reduce wind resistance when fleeing from urban predators." 93. When a woman's family tried to stage an intervention for her hoarding, she calmly explained she wasn't a hoarder. She was the unpaid curator and archivist for a living museum of discarded and forgotten domestic artifacts. It's not a pile of old newspapers, it's the periodicals pavilion. 94. After sending a series of increasingly incoherent and bizarre texts at 3 a.m., a man apologized the next day by claiming he hadn't been drunk. His phone had been briefly possessed by the ghost of a mischievous and frankly quite lonely 18th century poet. 95. A woman complained that her boyfriend never answered his texts for hours. He insisted he wasn't ignoring her. He was practicing a rigorous regimen of digital minimalism to decolonize his attention span from the tyranny of instant gratification. He's not rude. He's just enlightened. 96. At karaoke, a man was singing so horribly out of tune it was physically painful to hear. When his friends begged him to stop, he informed them he wasn't singing badly. He was performing an atonal deconstructionist jazz arrangement that was clearly far too sophisticated for their pedestrian ears. 97. A husband completely burned the roast chicken for dinner, filling the house with smoke. Instead of admitting his mistake, he presented the blackened bird and announced it was not burnt, but artisanally prepared in the post-industrial smoke infusion style. 98. A family was hopelessly lost on a road trip because the dad refused to use GPS. He swore he wasn't lost. He was intentionally taking a less traveled route to recalibrate his internal, instinctual compass with the Earth's shifting geomagnetic fields. 99. For her birthday, a woman received a bizarre, lumpy clay sculpture from her boyfriend. He explained it wasn't just a bad gift. It was a custom-calibrated, metaphysical stress object designed to absorb her specific negative energy frequencies. It's not ugly, it's therapeutic. 100. A man wrote a check that bounced spectacularly. When the store owner called him, he explained that the check wasn't unfunded. It was a piece of performance art exploring the transient and ultimately illusory nature of modern fiat currency. 101. And finally, the one that started it all. The Alpha and the Omega. A kid standing in front of an empty cookie jar, crumbs all over his face, is caught by his mom. She asks if he ate the cookies. He looks her dead in the eye and, with the unwavering conviction of 1,000 liars before him, says the two most powerful words in the history of excuses. It wasn't me. So there's your proof. Creativity peaks in moments of sheer panic. The comments are now a judgment-free zone. We want to hear the story of the one lie you told that was so creative. It deserved to be true. We're not cops. If you enjoyed this celebration of pure audacity, do the right thing. Like and subscribe.